Hi guys, Sarah here and welcome to Novel Expectations. Today I'm coming to you with the New York Times By the Book tag. So generally I don't really do tags on this channel, but I've seen this one going around BookTube quite a bit, and I thought it looked like a lot of fun, so I thought I'd jump in. I wasn't actually tagged by anybody, but I just thought it would be fun to do it anyway. So this tag was created by Marie Berg, and I will leave a link to the original video in the down bar below so you can check it out for yourself, along with a list of all the questions. So, question number 1. What book is on your nightstand now? Currently I am reading The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder by Rachel McMillan, and I am listening to an audio of The Winter Lodge by Susan Wiggs. Question number 2. What was the last truly great book that you read? I had to think about this one for a minute because I read a lot of pretty good books this year. But this one I actually read last year, and this is a book that I recommend to everybody. And it is Furiously Happy by Jenny Lawson. I'm sure a lot of you know what this book is about. It is a nonfiction memoir. It's hysterically funny. It's about the author's issues with mental illness. So, again, the title doesn't really say that that's what that's about, but it's a wonderfully written book. It's really, really hysterical. It's also very, very thought-provoking. So I recommend anybody check this out, whether you like memoirs or not. Please read this. I absolutely loved it. Question number 3. If you could meet any writer, dead or alive, who would it be, and what would you ask them? This one was a pretty easy answer for me. It would be Margaret Mitchell, the author of Gone with the Wind. And my question to her would be, did you ever plan on writing a sequel? And what happens to Scarlett and Rhett? She passed away not long after the book was written. It was within a 10-year span, I think. I think it was not long after the movie was released. And since her death, a few other authors have kind of taken on what they consider to be the sequels to Gone with the Wind. There was one called Scarlett, and there was another book called Rhett's People, and it was their personal takes on what happened after Gone with the Wind. But I would love to know from Margaret Mitchell herself, how did Rhett and Scarlett continue? Did they ever get back together again? It's one of those things that I've always kind of wondered. In my heart of hearts, I've always hoped so because I think that they're just perfect together. But again, if I ever had the chance to meet her, that's definitely what I would ask. Question number 4 is, what books might we be surprised to find on your shelves? Pretty much nothing, because I read just about anything. I read everything from middle grade children's books to YA, romance, suspense, thrillers. I don't read a lot of horror, or none at all actually. But really, the gamut, anything in between. History books, memoirs. I even have a few self-help books on my shelf. So yeah, there is nothing surprising on my bookshelves. Question number 5. How do you organize your personal library? This is my personal library right here, my e-reader. Everything is on here. With the Kindle app that I use, you have the option of having collections. So I pretty much have all of my books just sitting on the cloud on Amazon, if you will. But as I finish a book, I move them to a different collection. And I have the collections based on the year that I finished reading that book. So, you know, if I finish the book this year, it goes into my 2016 bookshelf. Also, I have separate bookshelves by month. So again, if I finish a book today, it will go in my April 2016 finished, along with my 2016 finished. For the Harlequin books that I love reading, I have separate shelves or collections for those, the Harlequin American Romance, the Blaze books, so on and so on. Each of those I put into their own individual little collection. The Babysitter's Club books and all the other Back to My Childhood books, they all have their own collection, but that's always for when I'm finished reading them. When I had physical bookshelves, I had a to be read shelf and I had a read shelf, and my TBR was a mishmash. When I bought new books, they went at the very end, and how I used to read my TBR was from the oldest to the newest. I didn't pick and choose in amongst that TBR. When I finished the books, they went onto my read shelf. And again, for my Harlequin series, they all went in series order. But for anything else, like, for example, anything like this, they were all organized by author. And that was pretty much that. It was actually by author and by date published. So author first, and then by date published within that author. So That was a longer answer just to tell you guys. Pretty much everything is stored currently on my e-reader. Question number 6. What book have you always meant to read and haven't gotten around to reading yet? Or is there anything you feel embarrassed to say that you've never read? I don't think we should ever feel embarrassed about not reading something or about reading something. But I have never read a classic by Jane Austen. Or really, I don't read classics at all. I read more modern classics. I've read To Kill a Mockingbird, which I really like. Gone with the Wind, of course. But the stuff like Jane Austen or Charles Dickens. I mean, I read, oh my gosh, A Christmas Carol. I read A Christmas Carol last year, and I really enjoyed it. But I look at stuff like Oliver Twist or Great Expectations or, Pride and Prejudice, and they just don't interest me. I'm not one who enjoys classics, and I'm absolutely okay with that. There are a gazillion other books out there that I can read. Maybe one day I'll try and pick up a Jane Austen novel and see if I enjoy it. But as it stands right now, that's just not my taste, that's not my thing, and I'm not embarrassed by it, but that's pretty much the one genre of novel that I have not read. Number 7. Disappointing, overrated, just not good. What book did you feel that you were supposed to like but didn't? Do you remember the last book you put down without finishing? I generally always finish books unless I really, really, really hate it. And unfortunately, the last book I can absolutely remember DNFing, and this was quite a number of years ago, was Twilight. I tried to read Twilight, and I don't think I got past the 3rd chapter. Granted, when I tried to read Twilight, I was in my 30s, so that might have something to do with it. I'm not saying it's for a younger generation, but it really is a YA novel, and generally I don't care for YA novels to begin with. I'm also not a big fan of paranormal, so the whole vampire thing just didn't sit well with me. I have to admit, though, I did get through the very first book in the 50 Shades series, but I actually could, I don't want to say identify with, because I could not identify with the plot line for 50 Shades in any way, shape, or form. But I think because the characters were older, that it made it a little bit easier to read, but it was still a difficult book to get through. But yeah, I'd have to say Twilight was the book that seems like everybody loves it, but I didn't. Question number 8. What kinds of stories are you drawn to? The stories that I'm drawn to, my absolute favorite books, if I could read nothing else for the rest of my life, would be romantic comedies. I absolutely love romantic comedies. I love the lighthearted, the funny, the happily ever after. That's just fantastic to me. And the second part of this question was, any that you steer clear of. I don't read horror novels. I don't care for Stephen King, Dean Koontz. My husband loves that. He can have it. He can enjoy it. Anyone else who likes it can enjoy it as well, just not me. Question number 9. If you could require the president to read one book, what would it be? Well, I'm in Canada, so it would actually be our prime minister. And I had a hard time with this one. Everybody else who I've seen answer this question, I'm like, yeah, But I don't, to be honest, I don't know the prime minister's taste in books. But I do know he has 2 young children. And I bought this book for my niece last Christmas, and I also bought a copy for myself because it's so darn cute. So I'm going to recommend this book, and it is The 12 Days of Christmas in Canada, and it is written by Ellen Warwick, and it is illustrated by Kim Smith. This book is adorable, and like I said, Prime Minister Trudeau has 2 young boys. I think he's got 2 boys. And I think this would just be such a great book for him to read them at Christmas time. It pretty much goes through Canada, along with the 12 Days of Christmas. So, for example, in this one, they're in Nova Scotia, and it's for 3 lobsters. And it's about a young boy and his cousin. He comes up, I believe, he or she comes up from the U.S. to visit the family at Christmas time. And the grandmother takes the 2 cousins across Canada, and in every different series, or season, in every different city, there's something different. So, for example, in Montreal, it's 5 Golden Bagels. For anyone who's Canadian, I highly, highly recommend you read this book. It is just the most adorable book. Winnipeg, Manitoba is 8 polar bears swimming. The illustrations are just adorable. And in every single city, where my finger, right there, you get Looney, the Canadian goose. And he's in all of the illustrations, all of the pictures. They're fantastic. So, Mr. Trudeau, if you ever see this and you haven't seen this book, I recommend you pick this up for you and your kids. I think you're all going to really enjoy it. And question number 10. What do you plan to read next? The next book I have to read after I finish The Bachelor Girl's Guide to Murder is Welcome to Icicle Falls by Sheila Roberts. It is the prequel to the Life in Icicle Falls series. And my next book after that, because that is only a little novella and I'll probably finish it really quickly, is Heat Exchange by Shannon Stacy, the first book in the Boston Fire series. So anyway, guys, have you read any of the books that I talked about, or what did you think about this tag? Please post in the comments below. And I'm not going to tag anybody for this because there's already been a gazillion people who have done this. But if you're watching this video and you haven't been tagged and you want to do this tag, please do it. And if you do it, please post in the comments below so I can definitely go and watch because I'd love to see them. I love everybody's answers to these. So anyway, guys, until my next video, take care and happy reading. Bye.